I think ultimately building a good app comes down to being able to engineer human behavior. Period. You're not obviously respecting UX UI rules is important. Having a good aesthetic is important. Having being aligned on branding colors is important. But those are all an afterthought. First and foremost, you have to understand, what do I want my user to achieve and do broadly as part of my app? So what is my major objective? For us, it's how do we make busy professionals stay more consistent with their fitness through gamification and AI? That is our broad statement. And then within each individual feature, how are we designing this feature? What is the mini action I want you to do within this feature? For example, log your meal, or like log your workout, or compete, or add a friend, or compete your. So what is the micro action that I'm trying to help you do here that is going to help you achieve that broader objective? And then accordingly, how do I design that feature and that screen to that end in the most efficient, simple way possible? At Bain, for example, and we had the concept called CFR, which is called communicating for results. And I learned this from Bain, actually, because when you're presenting to a client at Bain, you're taught very early on that you should be very CFR. You should communicate for results. And what does that mean? It essentially means if you have 3 recommendations or 3 options on the table for the client, and you know that, let's say, option 2 is the best option, how are you going to design that slide in a way where the client's mind naturally reading the slide is going to gravitate towards option 2 as the natural option to take? You're helping them make that decision through how you're designing the slide and how you're building your slide. In app design, it's no different. The difference is, instead of talking to a CEO and the decision is maybe like a $500 million decision, you're talking to a user and that decision is just on their own personal life. How can I engineer the design in a way that helps you make the right decision?
On to this point, I was researching some statistics about the importance of really building something that's, as you said, it communicates for results and is efficient. I think efficiency is a really key word. So, according to a 2023 study by Forrester, 55% of consumers will abandon an app or a website if they cannot find what they're looking for in 3 clicks or less.
Yeah.
And that's just brutal. You have such a small margin of error where you want to make sure that the entire functionality for something that could possibly be very complicated and very deep has to be clear to the user within 3 clicks. And I remember one of the things you told me, especially because you're part of your mission is to help people stay consistent, right? So someone abandoning, I thought abandoning was such an intense word, but abandoning the app within 3 clicks would go completely against your mission. So was this a fear or a motivational element as you were building the app? It's a statistic like this.
It's just a reality, and it's a brutal one. I think people who have never built apps before think that it's such a easy business. You just build an app, you're on the app store,
Make
you're
money.
yeah, you're making money or whatever. It's not. And getting people to use what you build is the most difficult thing in the app business. Everything else is very easy because once people use your product, everything else makes sense. Now, why is it difficult? So, coming back to that stat that you mentioned, when you are on, or you are an app, where are you? You're on the person's phone. Okay? You're an icon on the person's phone. What's next to you? Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. $1 billion apps that have been engineered to perfection to retain the attention of the user. So, what is your user used to? He's used to that kind of an experience where it's so easy, it just keeps flowing for me, it's just constant dopamine injections, and it's just so, effortless pleasure. And now you have to build something where you're actually asking the person to do something. You're asking them to log the meal, you're asking them to do the workout, and you have to find a way to make it engaging enough so that you can compete for their attention with an Instagram. Like as a fitness app and as TrainMate, I don't perceive my competition to be, other fitness apps. I perceive my competition to be Netflix and Instagram because I'm vying for my users' attention against those other things. Like I'm trying to push you that instead of just binging for 4 hours on Netflix, why don't you do a workout for an hour? Now, how can I design the app in a way that is engaging, motivating enough to convince you to do that?
Sounds impossible.
It does, right? And it feels like it's impossible sometimes, but it is. It is possible.
There was a similar statistic here, and it says a recent report from Digital Intelligence revealed that apps using gamification see 40% increase in user engagement compared to those that don't. And obviously, gamification is a core element of TrainMate. Now, when I read this app and when I heard you talk about TrainMate for the first time, I said, well, maintaining your health is a very serious topic. And these statistics that we read about, obesity rates and heart issues, these are all very serious topics. And now we want to add gamification, which almost sounds like you're taking the problem down and you're making it less serious, less important, but it gives you more results. Why is it that gamification actually works? Why is it that gamification is actually engaging to people, whether you're learning a language or trying to monitor how you eat and building a new behavior?
Yeah. Look, I think ultimately it's not the gamification within of itself, it's what the gamification produces. And it's those happy chemicals. Happy chemicals are essentially can be summarized into, if I recall it correctly, DOSE, something called DOSE, like DOSE, essentially dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And as human beings, we are primarily driven by, in any situation, we're driven by one or more of these chemicals at the same time, right? Dopamine is typically like your motivation chemical. So that's when you're trying to achieve something, it's dopamine that's helping you to keep going. So when our ancestors were hunting, the reason they could run for so long is they would run after the prey, they would lose sight of it, they would run faster. Once they see it, they'll get a spike in dopamine because that target was getting closer so they could run more. Serotonin is what we call usually the social happy chemical. So it's when you connect with other people, you get recognition from others, you get some spike in serotonin. Oxytocin is more like when you like pet a dog or hug a baby or so, like that's that that kind of connection. So without going into too depth into each one of them, when you gamify, you're tapping into that because when I'm when I'm rewarding you on TrainMate with points because of your meals and workouts and steps, and then I'm allowing you to flex that on the leaderboard and on the feed for other users to see, I'm giving you short-term gratification that is spiking your serotonin because they're liking your achievement, they're liking your behavior. Whereas if you were to do that outside of the app, you wouldn't have gotten that instant gratification from fitness. And a big issue in fitness today, it is a long-term gratification game. And humans suck at long-term gratification, right?
True.
That was the first problem that I realized very quickly is because when people get into fitness, let's face it, they get into fitness for the aesthetics, right? Very few of them get into it because of the health benefits. Usually the ones that do are because they're already facing a health problem in their life. They're trying to counter it with fitness. But if you're a perfectly healthy person and you're getting to fitness, it's usually for the aesthetics. Problem with aesthetics, it's a long-term game. You're not gonna see abs in 2 weeks, my friend, right? So I was thinking like, okay, if I can't help them see abs in 2 weeks, how can I give them those dopamine and serotonin spikes along the way to help them reach that goal ultimately? So how can we integrate short-term gratification into fitness? And gamification is the best way to do it.
I love how you tap into human nature because at the end of the day, people feel like, and especially with the rise of AI, they see AI as a replacement for human beings in different situations. And few people see it as an integration and really doubling down on how humans behave. I mean, the evolution of AI in itself, it's a different topic, but part of it could be argued that it's almost a pursuit of efficiency. What we already do, we just want to do it better, faster, more accurately. And then when you add this gamification element to something that's so intimate, and you just want to make sure that, hey, I want you to do things a little bit differently, but I want to make sure that I'm also fulfilling your natural human instincts and your natural human behavior and those chemicals that are released into your body so that you enjoy the process, you see results, and hopefully those two elements combined will help you stick to the track and really have a long-term behavioral change.